Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the beautiful offices here in SIRO in South County Dublin this morning. I'm Brid O'Connell from Guaranteed Irish, and all Guaranteed Irish members who are tuned in and non-Guaranteed Irish members who are tuned in, you're very welcome. We're talking today in particular, looking at the costs of the SMB market and all the costs that they're forced to deal with at the moment in a tough economy. So we want to look at how we can work with some of our partners and members on making more efficiencies in your business and making value more achievable for you and your business. So delighted to be talking today about all things digital, and we're going to look at how we're going to unlock your business potential with the full fibre broadband. And for us, I suppose it seems like a no-brainer, but when we're so busy running our businesses, making trying to get sales in, trying to promote our business, create an awareness around our brand, trying to create repeat customers, looking at our costs, looking at our income. One of the things, another job we have to do on top of all of that is to look at how efficient we are in terms of our digital space. And our whole broadband really has a big role to play. A few years ago, we were all sending faxes, and now we're so, I suppose, mobile and connected. It's really interesting to see how we've evolved. But to keep up with that, we need to make sure we're using the right technology. So I'm delighted to be joined this morning by people who are much more knowledgeable than I am. I'm delighted to say. So Seán, Dervan, SIRO Head of Business Development, is with us this morning. Welcome, Seán.
Good morning.
Patrick Kickham, Director of Datapac, is also with us.
Morning.
And Patrick Molloy, Marketing Manager with Azzurri Sports from County Waterford. Very welcome.
Yeah, Jack Molloy.
Jack Molloy. You wouldn't have said that. It was Patrick. Yeah, so anyway, we need to manage that. So we've Seán, Jack and Patrick. So very welcome this morning to talk about it. So from the point of view of looking at more efficiencies and telling the story, I suppose, if I can come to you first, Seán, in relation to setting out the whole journey for those of us who are not technical and look at our broadband as another headache, but we do need it. We can't function without it. Maybe you could tell us a little journey that we've been on over the last number of years, very succinctly.
Sure. Well, look, traditionally, businesses in Ireland and businesses all over the world have been operating on traditional copper broadband, and it's been a trusted and worthy old friend to us. So typically, into a traditional premises, you would have a phone line coming in on a copper connection, you would have a fax line coming in, and then more recently, in 20 years ago, an ISDN line, which was a big brother of a phone line. And that would allow you to do certain things in your business. But our businesses have evolved.
Of course, yeah.
And the challenges therein are, particularly since COVID, that we're now using video conferencing. We now want to use voice over IP. IP stands for Internet Protocol, but we want to be much more dynamic in the things that we do. And small business owners are challenged with the fact that they are running and working inside of their businesses, living and breathing. And this is not a knowledgeable area for them. So we try to help them with that aspect. And most especially in Ireland, businesses are struggling in the area of using video conferencing. They're trying to adapt to new software packages. They're trying to just be more dynamic and more efficient and to make their businesses more profitable. But in order to do that, they have to consider the change. Mm-hmm. And some of the challenges around that are business owners may be just a little bit in a state of inertia. I'll do that later. I'll get around to that.
Guilty.
Yes, yeah. And they might be just a bit fearful of disruption to business.
Also guilty, because people hate disruption.
Yes, and change is a challenge to people. Yeah. So what we try to say to them, and SIRO found out in the period, particularly since COVID, that although we don't sell directly to the public, our route to market is through our retail partners. We have found that we have a very legitimate role in being an educator, and particularly the SME sector, where they don't necessarily understand all of this stuff. And we help them to unravel that and then say, why don't you speak to your local IT support person in your town or in your village, and they will verify or not verify what SIRO is trying to guide you through.
Okay.
So we try to be an educator.
Okay. So of course the likes of Datapac come in that space then. So in terms of, you mentioned to me earlier before we started, Seán, the whole idea of, the 2-track lane going to the dual carriageway, the multi-carriageway. Maybe just draw that picture for the listeners.
So when I mentioned copper lines coming into traditional business, there might be a fax line, a phone line, maybe an extra line for doing other things. Mm-hmm. They are all narrow band connections coming into a business. Mm-hmm. What the fibre will do is bring you an 8-lane motorway, a highway coming into your business, allowing you to put all of your voice, all of your data and all of your other traffic onto the same connection.
Okay, so I really like that analogy. And the reason I like it is, as a small business, and we work with a lot of small businesses out there in Guaranteed Irish, the reality is we all have to be innovative and trying to get ahead of the curve all the time in comparison to our competitors. And if we're trying to scale or do business in overseas markets, we need that accessibility. So I would imagine, in layman's thinking, for anybody who's thinking ahead, they must be on Fibre, or they must be doing something about getting on Fibre. What are you seeing on the ground, Patrick, in relation to the IT needs? Are they biting? Are they going down the Fibre route just yet?
Yeah, very much so. And I think that if we go back to that, terrible situation of COVID, that definitely enhanced, people's or the ease of talking to people. I mean, our business is very much two-pronged. I mean, we go to businesses to try and solve problems or solutions that they require, or they come to us with problems that they have, and so forth. We've been in business for over 40 years now, so we've seen everything from the pigeon to the telex, the fax machine, right the way up, and so forth. And
I hope the pigeon is out of a job now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well done. They're very tasty, but we have but right the way up. And there's no question. I mean, from a unified communications point of view, and to take Seán's, should I say, borings going into a kind of a village or a house or whatever, to the motorway or whatever. I mean, we are seeing people from a collaboration perspective, a unified communications, where you've got presence, you've got, obviously video conferencing, you've got messaging, you've got various different applications coming together from a collaboration point of view in unified communications. And I mean, from a cost perspective and a return on investment perspective, and also from a quality of, be it agencies or experiences from a customer perspective, from a huge cost savings, being able to have proper, presentations, demonstrations over.
Okay, so my question then is, so clearly the Fibre is a much better and a necessary adjustment in terms of making efficiencies. How many of our businesses out there are actually have transferred over to Fibre? First of all, what percentage of the business community in the SMB in particular?
I would, there's obviously, various, and we'd probably get onto that, the advantages and the risks and so forth. I would definitely say, right, that, we have seen a significant amount within the last 4 to 5 years. Okay. Some of them, it was very, very quick. It was actually during COVID, to obviously help their employees and help their customers and so forth. But it would be a daily discussion that we would be having from a beneficial point of view. I mean, of course, people are looking at return on investment. People are looking at various different things. With cybersecurity, and with various, situations like that, you have other reasons for looking at Fibre, not just the whole collaboration point of view. I mean, it's very easy to do remote backups.
Yeah.
It's very easy to keep yourself much more secure. There's a lot more benefits. I mean, not just that in 5 years' time there won't be copper. I mean, that is another reason to get on that particular journey. The cost of Fibre has gone way down. You can scale it up and scale it down. Also, from an application point of view, software as a service. I mean, rather than buying a perpetual license or having on-prem applications, you would have a situation where if you've got 10 employees, you can have 10 licenses. If you need another 2 next month, you can add it on. It's all software as a service from that. Yeah.
Okay, so just not to cut across you there, but so it seems like it's a no-brainer. We have to go towards Fibre. There is a pressure from the government point of view of trying to get companies to move over there. And Jack, in Azzurri, you've actually taken the step. You've done it for quite some time. Okay. How effective and what difference has it made to your business moving on to Fibre?
It's changed the game. I mean, I remember instances before we would have come into the office and our LAN connection, our on-premise one is gone, and we're at a standstill. Yeah. We can't work. So it's as simple as that. And that doesn't happen anymore. So you've gone from situations of literally you're paused, you can't communicate with your customers, you can't access your emails, you can't process orders, to a situation of constant connectivity. It's opened up the possibility of working from home as well, which is a little bit unique for us because we're a production plant, we do still need the physical presence. But where possible, we have that bit of leeway now as well.
It helped. I know you employ 35 people in County Waterford. Has it helped grow the business, and are you able to get to further markets as a result of being on Fibre?
Yeah, I think so. Like I've been in the business now for the last kind of 5 years, and one of the main things that I've learned is that the less, you know, digital you are, the more manual you are.
Yeah.
And that was a real problem for us, is we were so manual in the way we were doing a lot of things. And over the last couple of years, we've been on a journey to just become less and less manual. You know, so we're 35 people, and it's a lot. It is on the bigger side of an SME.
Yes, it is.
But it's still, you know, not a huge number.
Yeah.
So if you have 35 people there, you have to make sure they're working on the right things.
What efficiency is
They, you know, and we found that people were focused on the admin side of it much more than the parts of the business that we're trying to push on with, you know, in terms of, you know, we create products and sell products. We make jerseys, we make leisurewear items, we make equipment. We need people, and our most coveted possession is our customers. We need our people focused on our customers and our products and our processes. We can't have them kind of chasing their tails doing admin that you know, our software and our system should be doing for us. So it's been great in giving us the leg up to get there. You know, I used to actually work for Oracle.
All right.
So yeah, I worked for them for about 2 years. So you're talking about on-premise there, Patrick. You know, you weren't allowed to say on-premise in Oracle. You know, so it was all about moving to the cloud, software as a service. So when I kind of joined back with the company about 5 years ago, that was really ringing in my head. And you know, you can't build a house on poor foundations. So you know, it's all about getting the right connectivity, building the right platforms on top of that.
So on that note, just to tell the listeners who are tuned in this morning, a little bit about Azzurri. Just give us a line on it, because I know it's a family business.
Yeah. So we've been operating now for best part of 30 years. Since I think around 2002, we entered into the sportswear market, and our principal probably sector would be GA market, but we supply to everybody, football, soccer. People hate when I say soccer, but anyway, GA, rugby, schools, and we do corporate as well. We're unique in that we produce probably 70% of our items in Woodford.
Great.
So
fabulous local business.
Yeah, it's great. You know, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
We also make our helmets there as well, and so that's it. You know, mostly it's sportswear for matches. We also do leisure wear. We do corporate wear.
So when I listen to you about that, and you're employing 35 people, that's 35 mortgages, 35 families that looked after, which is no small feat in any business, as we know. But the reality is, for you running that size of a business, efficiency is everything. And costs and savings are everything. So while your sales are coming in on one side, you've got to look at the costs in the long term. Seán, talk to us about the efficiencies in terms of having fibre versus and moving to fibre, how efficient it can be. What's the process for a company? And maybe we'll touch on later with all of you why people are slow enough to move on to it, and yet it's a game changer for business and drives business.
Sure. Well, we respond a lot to customer inquiries on www.siro.ie. So people randomly come in, and we identify then immediately that there's a problem. They've contacted us and they've taken the energy and time.
That's right.
So we go into a triage question session with them and ask them, tell us about your business. And we try and find out what's going in there. And we find the common narratives are mostly around, if you're in retail, our payments at the Visa machines are dreadfully slow. Can't reach the bank.
Yeah. Actually, stop you on that.
Yes.
What is going on in Ireland with retail? That's paying a time is a nightmare in
Absolutely.
stores.
Absolutely. And it's one of the most common narratives. And if you go into a business,
it's just down to fibre, lack of fibre.
Yes, they can't reach the bank because there's something else going on.
Call out to retail. So
absolutely,
fibre is essential. Okay.
Absolutely. If you go into a busy pharmacist, the same thing. There'll be 2 Visa machines at the front, but there's also dispensing 2 or 3 PCs in the background.
Yeah.
And then the HSE portal, when somebody comes in with a medical card, all of that is happening over a digital interface. So what would have been your traditional chemist or your traditional solicitor's office, they've vastly changed.
Yes, of course.
And one of the common narratives, for instance, is a solicitor or legal practice saying, I've just adapted to Keyhouse software and it won't work well because they're on that narrow track, that narrow copper connection.
Right.
And we're losing voice calls. It's a common narrative across the SME sector. So to drive the efficiency, if you try and measure or modify what that's impacting your business like. I've just dropped a customer call, or I'm in the middle of an important legal discussion with a client online, and I've got buffering or freeze frame. It's a dreadful impact on your business. So the efficiency comes from removing all of the inefficiency. And it's so simple to do. And that's why throughout COVID, we found unwittingly we tripped into this area of we actually have a role here as an educator.
Yeah.
And not to try and get salesy or because we don't sell to the public,
Yeah.
but to ask the questions in the triage session and identify where the problems are, and then give a template email to the business owner and say, bring this to your IT support person in your town, your trusted local person, and tell them that you've spoken to SIRO, that we can deliver this product, but ask their verification. And that really simplifies the matter.
So they make the phone call. They've had the trauma, first of all, of losing sales and the costs and all associated with that. They make the phone call. You triage them through questions. You're learning. You're getting solutions for them. You contact, we'll say Datapac, and they're talking. You go out. You help the customer. What do you find, or do you find, Patrick, that the customer just doesn't understand it, doesn't have the appetite to understand it, because they're busy running their other business in the meantime? And is there confusion out there? And what's the stoppage? What's the blockage for them not being more efficient? It's such a slam dunk when you think about it, particularly in retail and so many other spaces.
Yeah, I mean there are so many challenges in the SMB sector in Ireland today, obviously, and I mean, you know, some people survival is number one, right? You know, and I mean, I think that, you know, there's a very limited awareness of what is available,
right?
You know, what the return on investment can be,
right?
I mean, you know, and that is the number one blocker. I think, you know, to go back to Seán's point and an earlier point I made with regard to COVID, it was the people, their back was against the wall. They had to do something. They had to go. But there are so many people that don't realise, they accept that their 2 credit card machines can be slow. They accept this because that's the way it's always been, and therefore it is a limited awareness, ultimately, and so forth. And I think that this particular forum, and indeed organisations like Datapac, unfortunately, we don't have breadth to cover everybody, right? You know, there is a very easy solution, and you know, the return on investment and so forth is very is very good from a Fibre perspective. That is number one. The awareness, limited awareness, would be. I mean, what we tend to do, right, is we tend to look at not just what their current problem may be. We tend to broaden it a little bit more and say, well, okay, is your machine slow? Is this slow? I mean, you know, can you look at it if it's a pharmacy and so forth? I mean, what about video calling, Zoom, Teams, and so forth? Can you actually add more? Can you get a competitive advantage to necessarily the pharmacy down the road, this, that, and the other? What will bring you up? So there's a lot more to it than just that. I mean, you know, I mean, if you ring up and just want one solution solved, well, look at, I mean, you know,
it's rarely related to just
one issue.
It's probably buffering to other matters as well.
I think often in the case of those small businesses who are busy running their own business, we just keep thinking that. I don't think they join the dots and realise this one solution will fit a whole lot, will fix a whole lot of problems. And I think there's a little piece of education required there. And that's what today's all about, is to make sure that the Fibre is a solution and cost effective. How long does it take? So here's a disruption question, right? Everybody hates disruption because we've got to run our machines, you're producing your goods, Jack. Like, how can you manage it? How did you find that experience when you moved? How difficult or challenging was that?
Oh, it was reasonably painless.
Really?
I'd say. Yeah.
Take us on the journey. What was involved?
Well, there's very little disruption. We had people in our offices over a number of days setting up the different ports around the business. Honestly, that was it. No, yeah. You know, it was right up and going. We didn't change a lot of software at the same time or anything like that. Where we said we'd do that, go for the Fibre Broadband first, and then afterwards we'd look at the different solutions which can they run on. And that's the process we're kind of about maybe 75% of the way through at the moment.
Okay, good for you. Great for a small business, so ahead of the curve.
If I may add, our journey is, you know, a bit longer. It's probably 15 years ago. You know, we were a very early adopter. We had a situation because we've quite a few, you know, other locations that wouldn't be Dublin centric or wouldn't be city centric, and so forth, where even copper wasn't in itself reliable. But definitely running a parallel approach, you know, there is no downtime if you run a parallel. You switch over at a certain time and so forth. And then obviously, you know, a year after, 6 months after, you can bring in your IP phone, you can bring in your, you know, kind of analog fax, you can bring in various different things after. But there should be no downtime if you run a parallel approach.
Okay, I really like that point, because I think that's a real deterrent.
Absolutely.
People think there's a downtime, and they also think, oh, if we're going to do that, we might as well look at X, Y, and Z. And the X, Y, and Z become a big monster. And that's what's stopping them taking the first step. I would imagine, because it's my own experience. I was really slow to move, and then when we did move, it was just night and day. So the big thing was not taking on too much. Like, you know, you want to lose 5 stone. You're not going to lose 5 stone the
No.
first week of
Yeah.
starting. You're going to lose. So I think it's a really interesting story, and I think it's really important that we communicate that today. Take the first step, make those efficiencies, get your communication up and going really quickly, plug and play, as Jack said, and then after that, let's bring in the other pieces of the program. And you're 75% of the journey on the way through. So tell us what else you added onto that then, and what did it allow you to do that you didn't think you could do?
Well, we used to do a thing called sizing events. Now, this is very non-technical, but anyway, we'd go up to we would our main business is clubs and schools, and it's all about seeing the product, seeing the samples.
Yeah.
And we would do a thing where we would come up with order sheets. We could, people try on the samples, fill out a sheet, give it to us,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was terrific business. But
Their school jerseys.
they're like you wear half zips, all that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it was a terrific business, but it was extremely manual.
Yeah.
And
Cost, manual.
costs,
Yeah.
inefficiencies, mistakes. When
Yeah.
things are manual, there's errors. So then there was more things that came off the back of it, but it was good business.
Yeah.
And then when COVID happened, you couldn't lose that part of the business. So what did we do? We built a man-made system. We built our own, personalized system, where people could select a product, see the individual fits of all of it. It was very detailed, and then they could place the order, and then they had a set amount of time to do this, and we would deliver them 5-6 weeks later. That blew up. Our suppliers at the time said they were, I think it was around Christmas, they normally get around a 30% increase in our orders, but they actually got a 400% increase in orders at that time, So, but it was still incredibly manual to upload those links, and then it was incredibly manual on the other side of it to process them.
Yeah.
And where this all came from was we needed to develop something that took the pain out of all this.
Yeah.
So where the journey actually started from was trying to fix this one area of our business. Okay, found solutions that would automate that for us. Okay, great. What's the cost of that? Let's go for it. Right, what's it going to do? Oh, well, it's going to make uploading them a bit easier, but it's not really going to make processing them that easier. Okay, well, why is that? Because it's not integrated with our system. Well, let's get it integrated with the system. Okay, well, great. Well, let's look at our system then. What is it doing? It's not doing that much. It's on premise. It's limited. It's not connected to the other areas of the business. We were very big on Google Sheets, which is a great starting point for any SME. And that didn't interlink with that. So just from looking at that one area, how can we improve our pre-order links? We started to kind of peel the onion, and we then since moved to a WooCommerce platform, and but because of that, we took an in-depth look at our invoicing system and our stock system and our order management system.
So efficiencies everywhere.
Yeah, so just by looking at that one thing, we then started to look at everything. And the irony of it is the thing we originally wanted, which was the pre-order link system, is now the last thing we're getting, because we're building all the other things first, So, and that system is now a cloud system. It integrates all of our production schedules, our import schedules and everything. And then on top of that, we'll be building a new Shopify website.
Yeah.
And then we'll be building in the new pre-order link system.
So the big question, Jack Molloy of Azzurri, is has that allowed you to grow your business?
Massively.
And has it made a difference to your bottom line?
Yeah, I would like to think so. Yeah, there's steady growth. But the main thing is that our people are focused on what I said at the beginning: our customers and our processes and our products.
And our processes, everything really, and running an efficient business.
Everything.
It's so important.
Everything. And we found whenever we go outside a process, that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah.
So it's sticking to the process.
Almost like a set of train tracks, right?
Exactly.
Keep the same.
Yeah. And whenever something happened, something happened with a customer or an order, and when you trace it back to try and find the root cause of it, we went off book there. So it makes sense. So,
and sometimes it's not just about instant return, right? It's not about profitability. I mean, I think that's really important, because what you're saying, Jack, can frighten people to a certain degree, because all this workload came out of one simple thing, and all of a sudden, there's so much going on, and there's a lot of resource internally required in that or whatever. I think that if you get instant profit, great, but you have to remain future proof. You have to remain, absolutely, and you have to remain relevant from a business technology perspective, and that's the point here. What you've done, Jack, is you've built a foundation. And you've kept up the speed with a stronger foundation, and if that's what you've got out of it, and sustainability, more turnover, more market share, That's the winner.
But we wanted to stop what we call the leaky ship. You know, we can go out and get new customers, but if our existing customers are leaving because of mistakes, because of inefficiencies, you're never going to grow. So it's allowed my team to focus more on the process, which stops the mistakes, allows us to focus more on the customers, and then we keep the existing, and then we build the new, and there you have the growth.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And of course, you know, the old adage, an existing customer is worth 3 times more value than a new customer. That's the trust that's there. And I want to talk about trust. National symbol of trust, Guaranteed Irish is. So for us, it's really important, and SIRO and Azzurri are members of Guaranteed Irish. So really important that the customers feel they're in a trusted environment when they're dealing with getting this type of business into their business. And I suppose partnering particularly. So you're across the country to a great degree, and we need to talk about geography, I suppose, in a little bit. So in terms of being able to access the SIRO offering, how nationwide is that, Seán?
Yeah, so for anybody listening today, in your mind mapping, consider that SIRO is an urban broadband. We're in the 26 counties, and we'll be present in all of the towns, the major towns, with a building population typically of between 6,000, 11,000 buildings. So that covers like Sligo, Drogheda, Dundalk, Cavan, and going down into Meath, Navan, Kells, Trim, towns like that. You won't find SIRO in Ballydehob, and you won't find us out in the very small regional towns, because they are being covered by the National Broadband Ireland project. And that brings me to the point that in about 5 years, Fibre will be omnipresent in Ireland. And it means that anybody, regardless of where your business is located, will be able to access fibre broadband. And it simply, as I said to you earlier on, would be the reason, why would you stay in a car that has a roll-up window rather than have the full beauty of the electronic services in your car? So it'll be there and it will be affordable. But you know something?
But it is affordable already.
It is affordable, very affordable now. But our challenge is, there's a challenge of customer ignorance, not aware, and there's an inertia problem there for some businesses. And
okay, so I think that's important to highlight. And we all push the things we don't want to deal with back to another day. And I think this is the reason we're having this conversation this morning. We're trying to talk to the members of Guaranteed Irish and all businesses out there across Ireland. Get on top of your fibre, get on top of your cost, and future-proof, as you said, Patrick, your business. Patrick, you have a great presence across the country. Maybe tell us a little bit about the business and where they're based and how, you know, your role, getting the feedback from SIRO out to the customer, because you're dealing with them on the coast.
Yeah, I mean, Datapac, you know, as I mentioned earlier on, we're in business for 4 decades, and we span from very much, you know, the 1 or 2 SMB organization, you know, then obviously middle enterprise, you know, up to global inbounds, public sector and so forth. I guess what makes us slightly different is that each segment of the market is treated like a different business. So it's not as if you're too small or you're too big, you know, each element has to be a very specific market, you know, go-to-market approaches in all those areas and different areas and different service offerings for that matter. And being Indigenous Irish, I mean, you gotta be like that. I mean, and so if you're American or European or UK or whatever, you might come in and say, I'm only public sector and so forth. So we tend to deal with everybody very, very well. I mean, we are a broadliner, so therefore, you know, we deal right everything from, you know, unified communications, network storage, you know, print document solutions, right the way down to ERP and cloud services. And I think that, you know, from what we're here today about, I mean, you know, providing solutions to local solicitors, to local pharmacies, to local accountancy firms, to local Indigenous, you know, 2 or 3, you know, estate agent, your type of business, you know, Jack and so forth or whatever. I think that, you know, we listen, we recommend, we're the trusted advisor, we're in business for 40 years, we're based in Dublin, we're based in the southeast of Ireland, but we cover the 32 counties. And I mean, you know, nothing is too small, nothing is too big, and we're very much consultative led and so forth. You know, this is what others do, this is what we think you should do, but it's up to you. How do we do it? What's the step? You know, consultancy to a large consultative selling.
Yeah. Okay, I like that, consultative selling. So I'm a small business. I'm giving you a scenario. I've less than 20 employees. cost is everything to me. I decide I'm going to go down the fibre route. I make my call, I get my triage, I go through, and it's great to have that there. I think people don't realise SIRO do that, so that you're actually educating and you're figuring out what do I absolutely have to have as a minimum versus what can I build on like Jack did as you go through the process. I think that's really important. That information then you would advise or contact, or maybe from there they figure out who the sellers are and who they can work with. They find Datapac and they go to them. How much money do I have to spend to get it into the building and start using it at the very initial basic level, plug and play, as Jack mentioned?
I think from a cost perspective, it is very much down to the reseller location and the cost of getting to the building. If it's urban and so forth, I mean, it is very cost competitive. I mean, compared to when Datapac itself went, I mean, I won't even discuss figures because I mean, it wasn't viable, for the vast majority of people 15 years ago. But now, I mean, it's come to a point where now it is the price where it is. It's not necessarily going to drop any further. So now is the time. Once again, I come back to the point is it's not something, it's a matter of when you do it at this point.
And if I make the call and I get through to the guys in Datapac, how long? So I make the call on the Monday. How long before they can come out to me? Is there weeks, months? How long?
So there's two elements. Number one, there's the whole connection, right? And so forth. And that can be, I mean, Seán, you're probably better advised on how long a connection would take. When the connection is in, it then isn't instant. It's then a project plan. It can be straight away. It can be over a period of 2 or 3 weeks. It can be, as Jack said, exactly what journey do you want to take? If it is just credit cards, right? It's instant. If you want to take a journey, once it's in. If it's just a journey that you want to take from a collaboration point of view, and if you want to really look at return of investment, relevancy, and growing the business forward and being future-proof, absolutely. One thing that I think is important to note, Seán, that when it comes to fibre, I mean, there's a huge amount of different levels from a capacity bandwidth perspective.
Okay, of course,
right? And I think it's important to say that, because it's fibre and so forth, you can switch that up and down, right? Relatively efficiently, right? So I mean, you don't have to buy the Rolls Royce today, right? And you can buy something that's sufficient, that's good.
It's a toe in the water approach to fibre, and allows you to future-proof.
There's a what approach?
A toe in the water.
Okay.
So if you say, I'm using a copper line at the moment, I've got 4 employees, and we're having a problem with video conferencing, and that's my big problem. In the high street of any town where SIRO is present, that fire can be put out within about a week to 10 days.
Brilliant, and that's great to know that.
So we're going away, we're taking away the narrow band copper capacity, and we're coming in with that.
Yeah, so we're with our
now you've got capacity for video conferencing and 2 or 3 calls at the same time, and maybe do a little bit of backing up to the cloud. It
seems like a no-brainer in terms of any business operating who wants to do any level of scale, any level of communication now, because like you said, when you're doing the teams and everything just stops and you're all free-frame.
Or audio pods.
It's not like that. Your eyes usually one way and your mouth is another. It's not a good look, ladies. So we're trying to avoid that, I think. And I mean, it just makes us look so much more professional when things are fluid and they're working properly, doesn't it? So have you found a huge change, Jack, in that?
Yeah, I think the biggest change we had was that it facilitated us to allow people to work from home, which I touched on at the beginning. Now, again, we can't facilitate that for everybody, but our admin team and our sales team, our graphics team, and then some of our management as well. It really allowed us to work in different locations. Some of us travel for work as well. So it opened up that whole world. It wasn't open to us before that.
It's amazing. So we had a very interesting conference yesterday on the future of work with Guaranteed Irish. And we were talking about the employees and satisfaction level. And, I'm listening to you there and thinking about how frustrating it must be for the employees when they can't communicate and look professional, because they are professionals. And then there's the technology that's letting us down. It must be a big reason as well for any employer out there just to sharpen their toolbox and be in the marketplace.
Well, what resonated with me mostly about you giving the bio of your company was that you said that you've moved everything from the cloud. So traditionally in a small company, they'd have a server in a small office, which usually was the stationary office with the envelopes, and the server would sit there. That's now coming out of play. And people are saying, so in the evening time, people would stay late to back up everything to the server, or back up from there to somewhere else. Now all of the information, when you have the capacity connected into your building and to the cloud, to the World Wide Web, everything that you're doing at the moment it's done is instantaneously replicated back to a server in the cloud. Now, the cloud, to anybody who's not aware of it, is a big data repository, a big data center, either in Dublin or somewhere else. So your data is immediately protected and replicated. So if you think of that in a legal context for legal firms, very important, or in a property exchange setting where legal documents and property documents are being changed. It's the same in an engineering capacity where an engineer in Italy is changing the design of an air conditioning flow, and that the electricians somewhere else in the world are working on the same multi-story building, and they need to know all of that is converged in the cloud and all of the changes are replicated. So everybody in different time zones can work in harmony with real information.
It's real time.
If it doesn't happen in real time, so we're talking then in the bigger world, but in the SME setting, a small solicitor's practice or a small engineering practice has an engineer there at $140 an hour, €140 an hour, and he's making changes, and you lose that data because the server's after breaking a disk.
In terms of percentage,
you can't take that risk anymore.
You know, it's gone. In terms and you're out of business if that happens. So you know, if you're in that space,
well, it happens once or twice, you could be out of business.
Well, can I ask you then, Seán, in terms of businesses out there in your experience, and Patrick maybe on this, what percentage of businesses have made the move? Like, are we 50, 60%, or are we way down? Where are we at?
We think from recent experience, and you can only go on the respondents, and
of course.
we think there's probably 50% of SMEs that still haven't adapted. Now, of the 50% that we think haven't, there's a good proportion of them that had inquired and made the first step in the journey, but still haven't moved.
Okay.
And the message today is that it can be very simple and it can be very non-committal. If you contact your local IT person, Patrick's team, or if you come to www.SIRO, we will go through that triage questionnaire, and you're not committed. And we'll advise on what direction you should take, and we'll also advise, go to your local IT person, and they will guide you from there. Because there's a sensitivity around the cost, there's a sensitivity around the trust. They haven't met me other than a phone call, but the local person.
I hope today we've myth-busted the whole thing on cost. It's equally, if not more affordable. And in terms of the downtime, it's actually more efficient and more, it's less costly than what you're using at the moment because of cost. So just think about that. It's the time you're losing. Number two, it's your image, your brand, how you're presenting yourself when you have that freeze moment and all those kind of things. And number three, as Patrick said, it's so much more than just communication. It's all the backups. It's all the services that you think about when you with your cloud at the moment. And I suppose number four, it's trusted organizations like SIRO who are doing that, and everything is available on siro.ie, and you can make an appointment there with Seán if you want to do that. And of course, Datapac are out around the country, and they cover the whole country, so there's no opportunity, there's no question of not being able to find an IT service provider. And you have your own service provider in IT as well, but maybe they're not offering you what you could be offered because you're not asking the right questions. So the questions are, how can I be more efficient? Or, no, correct me here, guys, if I got this wrong. How can we be more efficient in a cost-effective way with the least amount of disruption?
How can I future-proof my business?
Absolutely.
Most important.
Okay, thank you for that. How can I future-proof my business? And I think that would be a real help. To wrap up, guys, I'd just like ask maybe each of you to give one takeaway to the listener. Seán.
The takeaway I would give to business is, don't push this till later. Don't push this off till another day or down the track. It's better to get started on the journey and be aware. We make this extremely convenient for you. Okay. In a 10-minute conversation, we'll have an insight to your business and struggles, and we'll help you and guide you and steer you.
So stop procrastinating. Make the decision. Yeah. Jack.
I think one thing that I would advise would be there's always one key thing in a business that just people have a hard time with. That for us, it was our admin and our processing, for instance. And as I said, we could have done a quick fix for that solution, but instead we chose to go deeper and look at, well, what's actually causing that, and what's actually causing the thing that causes that. And that was the reason we started this whole journey, you know. But
that's the option of just doing the quick fix as well.
You can do the quick fix, but it'll be money for, you know, probably a slightly less amount of headaches, but still you're still dealing with the same thing.
But you've literally transformed your whole business.
Yes, well, we're transforming, you know. Yeah, so we're not there yet, but you know, it's a constant journey, you know. Yeah,
and I think that's the important thing to say to the guys. We'll never actually be there.
Yeah,
it's a journey we're all on, and there's no getting ahead of it. We're just running fast to keep up.
We updated our websites a couple of years ago. It was brilliant. We're on this new fantastic place, and now 3 years later, we're going to move on from this, you know. So it's always improving, you know. So yeah.
But you mentioned, Brid, that Jack will, you know, you'll never be there. I mean, you know, you won't, and that's a very fair point. But I think that, you know, to go back to the point of being relevant, I mean, you know, I mean, the delta between where you are and where you need to go to is less if you're at the journey that you're doing, because you will never be there. I think if there's one takeaway point to add is that, I mean, the cost of not doing it is a bigger cost than the cost of doing it.
A very good, wise point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So a great opportunity to, a great note on which to end. I have some questions I'm going to run through with you. Before I go to the questions, I just want to remind the members, Guaranteed Irish is involved with SIRO and Azzurri as members, and delighted to be here this morning. But also, we're 50 years in business today, or this year, not today. I'll be wearing, we have a birthday cake here, guys, otherwise, but it's for the whole year, and we're celebrating it by offering one Guaranteed Irish member a €50,000 comms campaign that will be available to them in 2025. So the opportunity is to go on to guaranteedirish.ie, download the application form, make your application, your pitch as to why you should be selected as, I suppose, the poster company for next year with Guaranteed Irish, amongst other campaigns we'll be doing then as well. And the criteria is that you have 50 or more employees. And one of the big things we're looking at in that campaign is that you start to use Guaranteed Irish or Irish-based businesses in your supply chain. And that's building the trust that we talked about today. It's tapping into the whole sustainability and sustaining enterprise in our community. So I'm so delighted we're talking to 3 great businesses who are out across the whole of Ireland and up the day, I suppose we have to say. And that's coming from a Limerick woman, Jane. A couple of questions that have come in to Seán. Are there different types of fibre, and how do I know what I'm on?
Yeah, that's a challenging question, and there's part of that related to the fact that when a product called the VDSL, virtual DSL, DSL means digital subscriber line. I won't get into this, but you have fibre coming from the exchange as far as the curb, and then from the curb, which is a telecoms cabinet, into your building on copper. Yeah. So it's only part fibre. And if you contacted me today, the first thing I would ask is, what current supplier are you with? And you might say Vodafone or Aircom or whoever. And then I'll ask you, and what price range is that in? As soon as they can be priced, I'll work out what they're on.
Okay, that's great.
But I'll also work out with the things that they can't do.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay.
So if somebody tells you that you're on fibre, always ask, is it fibre to the premises? FTTP is the acronym. Is it fibre to the premises? It's a big distinction from FTTC, fibre to the cabinet.
Okay.
Because from the cabinet, it leaves and copper into your building.
Yeah, okay, great.
There's a big distinction between the two.
I'm learning so much from you, Seán. Yeah. Thank you. Question to Patrick and Jack. Where can SMEs find their best advice on useful digital technologies for their businesses? What did you do, Jack?
Well, we consult with Enterprise Ireland a lot. Yeah, we've got a good relationship with them. Yeah. There's always different webinars and grants available. And we utilize some of them. You know, a lot of SMEs, as you said, they're not. I'm not an IT expert. You know, I have good knowledge of it, but going into the depths of different things I don't know about. So speaking with people who are kind of experts in it, but aren't necessarily IT people, they bridge the gap. They'll walk you through it. They'll tell you what's available, what you need. You know, I don't think enough people utilize that.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
So Enterprise Ireland is great for a company yours, for the smaller companies, even the LEOs, so the local enterprise office. So make sure you reach out to them. Or the guys here are available, so pick up the phone and let them give some advice. Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, just an invaluable area is, you know, peer groups and so forth. I mean, that's invaluable because, I mean, you know, as Seán mentioned, I mean, you know, approximately 50%, hard to tell exactly, of course, have, you know, gone on this journey. And I mean, you know, being the first mover and so forth, I mean, okay, you get first mover advantage, but you also get all the warps. You get everything like that.
I know.
So things like peer groups, be it pharmaceuticals, solicitors, be it retail, be it hotels, be it whatever it may be, really good area to do it. I mean, you really get impartial views.
That's right. I agree with that.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
It is a place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good idea, and they're everywhere in your own associations.
And the local enterprise board, of course,
yeah,
that you mentioned, would be very good.
Seán, final question: how can businesses prepare for the copper switch off?
Yeah, so the copper switch off is the term that everybody's using at the moment, and it's indicated to us that will happen somewhere in the next 5 years.
Right.
We know for certain that the omnipresence of fibre will be there.
Yeah.
So we thought that. So preparing for the copper switch off would be that you start the journey now with your local IT advisor or your trusted IT advisor, or contact SIRO, and we give you this role that we have is something that we tripped into it. We really didn't realize that our business would come this way. It happened it's free. It happened at the time of COVID, and businesses started to ring us to say our staff are working remotely, and we can't access our servers.
Okay.
So we help them with that. So the answer to the question is, take the first step and make a call and see what we can do to help your current situation, or if we can prepare you for the next step. But remaining on copper broadband is going to be a toothache that gets worse and worse.
Okay. So for all of you listening, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's been really educational. Thanks so much for educating me as well as everything else, gentlemen. Great to see the practical experience and the rollout and the availability of a support network right here at SIRO, and everything is available on siro.ie.